and welcome. So today, as I mentioned, we'll be taking the first 15 minutes to discuss how to select an artist, but let's jump in right now. Actually, let me take a step back and say my name is Liesl Fenner, and I manage and direct the public art programs at the Maryland State Arts Council. And I'm really excited today because we have our new public art project manager, Nora Howell. If you could wave and let folks know, we have a new face on the MSAC staff who will be joining me and Ryan in the public art team. And we're really excited. She just started, so I'll be taking most of the questions today, but we'll be onboarding Nora in the next few weeks and months. So this is an overview of the Google Meet platform in case you're unfamiliar with the platform. There's the raise hand feature at the bottom, the mute and unmute. Try to avoid hanging up with the big red phone symbol there. And then over towards the right is the chat box. Again, we'll be taking all questions after this introductory portion on how to select an artist. You can also look at who is also on the call through the list of attendees. So we open up all of our public meetings with our grounding slides. And this is our land acknowledgement statement, which is available on our website. You can learn more about our land acknowledgement project with the Native Tribes of Maryland. So we acknowledge that the lands and waters now known as Maryland are the home of its first peoples, the Accohannock Indian Tribe, Assateague Peoples Tribe, Cedarville Band of Piscataway Indians, Choptico Band of Indians, Lenape Tribe, Nanticoke Tribe, Nassau-Wawash Band of Indians, Piscataway Conoy Tribe, Piscataway Indian Nation, Pocomoke Indian Nation, Susquehannock Indians, Youghiogheny River Band of Shawnee, and tribes in the Chesapeake watershed who have seemingly vanished since the coming of colonialism. We acknowledge that this land is now home to other tribal peoples living here in diaspora. We acknowledge the forced removal of many from the lands and waterways that nurtured them as kin. We acknowledge the degradation that continues to be wrought on the land and waters in pursuit of resources. We acknowledge the right of the land and waterways to heal so that they can continue to provide food and medicine for all. We acknowledge that it is our collective obligation to pursue policies and practices that respect the land and waters so that our reciprocal relationship with them can be fully restored. And our equity and justice statement. The arts celebrate our state's diversity, connect our shared humanity, and transform individuals and communities. The Maryland State Arts Council and its supporting collaborators are committed to advancing and modeling equity, diversity, accessibility, and inclusion in all aspects of our organizations and across communities of our state. MSAC and its grantees are committed to embracing equity and non-discrimination regardless of race, religious creed, color, age, gender expression, sexual orientation, class, language, and/or ability. And our vision, MSAC plays an essential role ensuring every person has access to the transformative power of the arts. And our mission, the Maryland State Arts Council advances the arts by providing leadership that champions creative expression, diverse programming, equitable access, lifelong learning, and the arts as a celebrated contributor to the quality of life for all the people of Maryland. Our goals, briefly, are to increase participation, provide intentional support, build capacity, leverage connections, and bolster Maryland arts. And our creative meeting actions today are to celebrate being in the space with other creative people, engage with everyone's presence as a gift, acknowledge that together we know a lot, enter the conversation with curiosity and inquiry, share your idea and trust that it will be heard, use I statements, focus your language on the task at hand, hold one another accountable with care, apply yes and I hear your idea and I'm going to add to it. Balance speaking and listening. So today, we're just going to start off with a few types of artist selection processes specific to public art projects. So this may be new and unfamiliar to you if you have worked in other areas of the arts. This is going to be helpful for those of you planning public art projects with the community in your area of Maryland. And then we'll take your Q&A. We want to hear what ideas you've got going and how to apply for the PAAM grant program. So I just wanted to show a screenshot from our website. This is under programs, public art, and then new artworks. And here we communicate that we have both planning and project grants. And talking about the artist selection process, the planning grant can support your time in selecting an artist, and it can also support an artist's time if an artist is applying, or if you're an organization, perhaps you're awarding honorariums or proposal fees to artists, and we're going to go into that a little here. This communicates our deadline. There's one deadline this year, January 26, 2024, and that link, apply here, takes you to the Smart Simple online application form where you can set up an account. We do have the full recording and the slides from our How to Apply webinar in September. And this went into great detail about Smart Simple. And I highly recommend reading this before perhaps, launching into your Smart Simple application. And also let me point into the quick resources yellow box that be sure to read the guidelines before you submit your application. Okay. So briefly, how to select an artist. And these are just three options on how you might go about selecting an artist for your project. I'm going to cover the call to artist process in depth. This is considered the most equitable and best practice for public art selection. Another option, though, is to curate directly, hire an artist if you already have an artist that you're working with, or if you are the artist that you are applying and you would like to lead a community, perhaps this informational section of the office hours won't be applicable. And then we also have a method called utilizing a pre-qualified list or registry. And it just so happens that MSAC is about to launch its first Maryland public artist roster. Roster and registry are the same term in the public art field. This will be on our website in November. We did an open call to artists, just like you see at our top example, and artists applied to be considered for our artwork commissions program, which is a separate program from the PAAM New Artworks grant. 430 artists were selected, and if you're a community that's seeking to just dive in, perhaps you have a short timeline, that will be available, and you'll be able to use search tags. Perhaps you're just looking for a muralist. You can search tags like mural or painter and pull back a list. This is a national roster, so we also will have tags for just selecting Maryland artists, because all MSAC grants are only open to Maryland residents. Also be sure to check with your county arts council if you're pursuing a project, your city public works department, if there's approvals that are going to be needed in your local jurisdiction. But this is important for any work that's taking place in public space. So let's dive into what a call to artists includes. When you're writing a document, a solicitation, if you will, you want to have the title of the project, and maybe it's not going to be the title of the artwork itself, but let's say it's a riverway project in so-and-so Maryland. You're going to have the basic information at the outset of the call. You need to know what your budget is. Even if you're going to be applying for a project grant and you think your maximum grant amount is going to be $30,000, then you're going to be looking at a project that's working within a scale of $30,000. Perhaps you have another funding source. Perhaps it's less money than 30. That's fine. Public art projects can be done at all budgets and scales. Perhaps you have additional funding sources that you're going after right now. That's fine. You also list if you are going to be paying artists a proposal fee, and we're going to get into that a little more in a bit. You want to describe your project. Where is it? Is it along a riverway? Is it a particular business district in your jurisdiction? Tell us about the history of your place. Who is the community that's going to be involved? A central tenet of the PAAM program is that there is community engagement in all projects. Your eligibility. The artists, again, that if you're coming back for a project grant, artists must be based in Maryland to be eligible for the project grant. If you're not coming back for a project grant and you're doing a broader call and selecting artists beyond Maryland, that's fine. You just include, if you have a geographic limitation. Tell the artists how they are being reviewed and how they're being scored. It's important to be transparent about that process. These are just some suggested bullets. And again, this PowerPoint is going to be on our website. So you don't have to be madly writing all this down, and it will be recorded. And have an actual application form itself, that the artist completes their contact information, where to submit information, where to submit their perhaps background images of work they've completed. There's online software that you can use for applications, and I can talk about that in the questions section of the presentation. So let's jump into RFPs, or requests for proposals. And this is often a great process for artists who are getting into public art. Perhaps you are looking at just working with artists in your county or your region of Maryland. If artists might not have as much experience doing public art, this is a very accessible way for artists building their portfolio to apply with their proposal. It would include drawings, including, detail about, how the artwork is made or how big it is or what colors it is. No napkin sketches. We want to see the idea, spelled out. They should show you examples in their application of their prior work. So, for example, if a painter is trying to do a three-dimensional sculpture, we just want to make sure that the artist has experience in the media that they're proposing to create. And have the artist tell a little about themselves, about their artist practice, a little bio about themselves. So that's the kind of information to include in an RFP. The artist selection committee would then review and score the applications based on that scoring criteria that you published in your original call. This is just a recommendation, but we often select 3 to 4 semifinalists. It could be more than that, but the artist knows that they have a pretty good chance of perhaps winning this commission, and they present their proposals to the artist selection committee. You might also set up a community meeting, have the artist present to the community. The committee scores the artists. You then select one finalist, and you work out a contract with that artist, and they would be the one to implement the project. We want to note that when artists are being asked to develop proposals without reimbursement, you may hear from artists that are upset that you're offering an RFP because they want to be paid for their time. And we're going to go into that on the next example. But perhaps there's a way of honoring the semifinalists. And so, if you get to that bar of being one of the 3 or 4 semifinalists, you are winning an honorarium. Perhaps the finalist receives a little more of an honorarium, and those honorariums can come out of the planning grant. So then there's an RFQ, or request for qualifications type of call. And that is where artists are just submitting their background experience, examples of the prior work. This tends to be a method where artists have had a few public art projects in their background. They may not. They may have. They may be submitting projects, that are maybe large scale or are parallel to what you're asking for. It depends on the project. But again, you're asking for perhaps a letter of interest. Why are you interested in applying to this particular project, or interested in working with our community? And again, the bio or artist statement. Tell us a little about yourself and your art practice. No artwork ideas are submitted in this particular process. And again, this is ideal for perhaps larger scale projects where you are looking at artists that have experience. Perhaps there's a longer timetable, so you have the time to work with artists that get selected through an RFQ, and work in developing that proposal with the finalists selected. Here again, the artist selection committee reviews and scores the applications. 3 to 4 semifinalists are selected for interviews. We often recommend in person now that we're coming out of the pandemic, and they meet with the artist selection panel. Again, they may present also to the community. And then one artist is selected to design the public art project. They enter into contract to develop that design. You may find the design that comes through that process is not actually what the community wishes to install. So often we recommend that there's a design contract and then a fabrication contract. But I would say it's pretty rare that if you're working closely with an artist through the design, you're going to want to contract with them to fabricate and install it. In this process, at minimum, you want to make sure the artist is getting reimbursed for their travel expenses. But again, we hope that you will award an honorarium. And then the third process is the RFQ plus proposal. So just like the process before, the artist you have 3 to 4 artists that have been selected. They are awarded an honorarium, and they go away and design their artwork. You might have some community engagement meetings with those semifinalists in the community to inform that design. But they come back, present those proposals. Perhaps you also have a community meeting before the final selection is made. I want to emphasize that with any selection process here for public art, revisions are made often to proposals. The final work you see on a drawing is not necessarily the final work that you see in public space. Public art is about working together and finding a solution for that particular site and working with the community. So there will always be revisions after a proposal. The artist working in public art needs to be flexible to that. The community also needs to respect the artist's media and vision and ideas for that project. But I also want to emphasize, sometimes we've seen communities say, well, I liked a little bit of that semifinalist proposal, although we didn't select that semifinalist. Can this artist kind of include it in the proposal? No, no, you cannot take ideas from another proposal. That is violation of the visual arts copyright law. And so I want to emphasize here in this webinar that the proposal that you see and award, you're sticking to the theme and form and colors in that artwork with some revisions, but not hand-picking ideas from another. So the artwork proposal, these are the items that we are going to require of you when you apply for a project grant. The project grant is to get the funding to actually implement the work. So you're going to ask this information from the artist. The description of the artwork be detailed. The community engagement. How are they planning to work with the community, or how did they work with the community when you're applying for a project grant? The artist needs to talk about their experience, including background images of artwork. They need to speak to any maintenance issues. If it's a mural, is it got a graffiti coat? Will it be protected from tags? We need a budget. What are the costs? There may be some variation when you're actually implementing the budget, implementing the project. The budget may alter. Same with the schedule. It's thinking about the time periods, month to month, of how this project is rolling out. And then again, the artwork drawings, detailed drawings that communicate what the proposal is. So that was a very condensed, abridged version of how to select an artist. I realize there's probably some questions that have come up. Are there any? You can feel free to put them in the chat box, but we welcome you to raise your hand. Share what your questions are. They may have nothing to do with artist selection panels. I'm also going to stop the recording.